They scoffed when she arrived. A woman, her gaze serene and unreadable, carrying a heavy rifle case into the heart of their camp. The whispers spread like wildfire through the ranks of hardened recruits, a corrosive mix of disbelief and derision. She's here to teach sniping? Her? She wouldn't last 5 minutes in a real firefight. Then the firefight came. It wasn't a drill. It wasn't a game. An unidentified armed unit breached the border under the cloak of night. The sudden staccato of automatic gunfire ripped through the forest canopy. The menacing buzz of drones sliced through the air overhead. Chaos, a venomous current, erupted through the ranks. The recruits, so confident in their training, scattered in panic. But she didn't. She melted into the cold, damp mud, her rifle sight unwavering, her breath a silent, controlled rhythm. Every precise crack from her rifle was a turning point, one target after another, collapsing into the oppressive darkness. She was not just surviving. She was orchestrating the battle. This is the story of the woman they dared to underestimate. May 2022. The Black Ridge training grounds slumbered beneath a pale, unforgiving Eastern European sky. A lingering spring frost clung to the dense pine forests, making the air sharp and cold. On the gravel parade field, recruits shifted restlessly, their rifles slung, their boots crunching in a nervous rhythm. They'd been told a top-tier NATO advisor was arriving, an expert who would teach them to fight like ghosts. Most envisioned a grizzled veteran, his face a roadmap of scars from desert campaigns and mountain skirmishes. Others pictured a titan of a man, broad-shouldered and barrel-chested, with eyes like chips of ice and a voice that boomed with authority. No one was prepared for the person who stepped out of the armored transport. Adriana Lewandowski moved with a quiet, deliberate grace. Her figure was slender, clad in nondescript gray fatigues that seemed to absorb the light. She held a rifle case in one hand, her brown hair tied back neatly under her cap. Her face was a mask of calm, impossible to read. The recruits blinked, a moment of stunned silence hanging in the air before it was shattered by a wave of snickering. "A woman," someone muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. Another recruit chuckled openly, leaning on his rifle with a condescending smirk. "She's going to teach us sniping?" Adriana ignored them. She placed her case on the ground, unfastened the latches with methodical precision, and began assembling her weapon. Each movement was fluid and unhurried, as if the world of their judgment simply didn't exist. The rifle came together, piece by piece, a deadly extension of her own focused will. The bass major cleared his throat, his voice straining for a confidence he didn't feel. "This is Advisor Lewandowski. She will be leading today's drills. You will afford her the same respect and obedience you would give to me." His words were met with half-suppressed grins. Adriana stood, the rifle now complete, its dark metal glinting dully under the overcast sky. She scanned the sea of skeptical faces, her voice steady and calm when she finally spoke. "Your first lesson is concealment. Find me." And with that, she turned and walked towards the treeline, vanishing into the dense woods without another word. The recruits exchanged amused glances. This was going to be easy. 15 minutes later, they fanned out into the forest, radios crackling with misplaced bravado. It felt like a game, a chance to expose the fraud. The woods quickly swallowed their noise. Boots crushed fallen leaves, and rifles clicked as they swept their sights through the deep shadows. They scoured hollows, pushed through dense underbrush, and peered behind fallen logs. The forest answered with an unnerving silence. Half an hour bled into an hour. Squads reported back, one after another. Nothing. A drone operator's frustrated voice crackled over the radio. "Thermal is clear. No trace of her. It's like she's a ghost." The laughter had long since died, replaced by a creeping unease. Suddenly, a sharp crack split the air. A paintball round exploded in a bright red splash across the chest of the point man. He froze, his face a mask of shock, slowly raising his hands. A second shot, thwack, and another recruit's vest was marked. Panic began to ripple through the line. "Where is she?" someone shouted, spinning wildly, but there was nothing but trees and the whispering wind. More shots rang out, each one surgically precise, each one finding its mark. Within minutes, half the platoon was dead. When Adriana finally rose, a phantom of mud and leaves, she had been lying less than 50 paces from them the entire time, perfectly integrated into the forest floor. She walked back towards them, her rifle cradled against her chest, her expression unchanged. "If you cannot see the hunter," she said, her voice quiet but cutting, "you are already the prey." Her words struck deeper than any shouted reprimand. The recruits returned to camp, their pride shattered, shaken by the effortless way she had dismantled them. The whispers changed. They were no longer of mockery, but of grudging respect and a hint of fear. Adriana offered no explanation, no boast. Instead, she gestured towards the firing range. "Now, for your second lesson." Targets were scattered across the valley, steel silhouettes at varying distances. Some were partially hidden behind brush, others were moving. The furthest, a tiny plate swaying almost imperceptibly in the breeze, lay nearly 1,500 meters away at the edge of the treeline. It was a shot most of them considered impossible. The recruits gathered, arms folded, silently daring her to fail. One miss, just one, would restore their shattered pride. Adriana stepped into position. She loaded a 5-round magazine, settled into her stance, and closed her eyes, taking a single, centering breath. When she opened them, the rifle rose to her shoulder as if it were a part of her. Crack. The 200-meter target dropped. Crack. A steel plate hidden behind a bush rang out like a bell. Crack. The 600-meter target fell. Crack. 800 meters. A clean hit. Each shot was an undeniable statement. But the last target remained. The immense distance, the unpredictable wind curling through the valley, it demanded absolute perfection. A miss would echo louder than all her hits combined. She could feel their anticipation. She adjusted her scope, her mind a silent calculator processing windage, bullet drop, and the subtle pull of the earth. Seconds felt like minutes. She exhaled slowly, her fingers squeezing the trigger with infinite patience. A single, sharp report rolled across the range. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, the distant plate shuddered violently and toppled backward into the dirt. A collective gasp swept through the recruits. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the drone camera feed confirmed it. A perfect strike at an impossible range. She lowered her rifle, ejected the magazine, and placed the weapon back in its case with an air of casual indifference, as if the outcome had never been in doubt. The major slowly lowered his binoculars, his jaw tight. He leaned towards his adjutant and muttered, "She isn't ordinary. She's a weapon we've never seen before." The recruits stood frozen. Their laughter was a distant memory, replaced by a profound, unsettling awe. In that moment, they all understood a terrifying truth. If this had been war, not a single one of them would have survived her. The next morning, Adriana gathered them at the edge of the forest. The doubt in their eyes was gone, replaced by a wary respect. 15 against 1, she announced, her tone flat. "You'll hunt me. I will hunt you. If you tag me, I lose. If I tag all of you, you learn." The odds seemed ludicrous, yet no one dared to voice a complaint. Adriana disappeared into the woods. 10 minutes later, a whistle blew, and the hunt began. The recruits advanced in coordinated squads, determined to use their numbers to flush her out. Adriana moved like a creature of the forest, her body pressed low to the earth. She submerged herself in a shallow, ice-cold creek, the water numbing her skin but masking her heat signature from the drones circling overhead. As the first squad passed her position, convinced they had her cornered, she rose just enough to fire. Crack, crack, crack. 3 recruits were eliminated in less than 2 minutes. Before they could react, she had vanished again. Confusion reigned over the radio channels. She's behind us. Negative. She's to the west. She was everywhere and nowhere. She used decoys, baiting a squad into firing on a scrap of white cloth while she circled around to their flank, taking them out with 3 more precise shots. By midday, half the recruits were gone. Fear began to set in. They started clumping together for safety, a fatal mistake. Patience was her greatest weapon. She waited, watched, and struck only when the moment was perfect. She picked them off one by one, using their own sounds and movements against them. Hours later, only 1 recruit remained. He was exhausted, his nerves frayed, but he was determined. He spotted her reloading on a ridge and charged, his own rifle raised, victory in his eyes. Adriana's rifle was empty. The click of the firing pin on an empty chamber echoed in the silent woods.
The recruit was closing in fast.
With movements too swift to follow, she dropped the empty magazine, slammed a fresh one home, chambered a round, and fired. The paint round struck his vest just as he crested the ridge. He froze, stunned, staring at her through his own scope. It was over. 15 of them had entered the woods. Not one had laid a hand on her. Weeks turned into a routine, but a new tension hung over the camp. Then came the alert. An unidentified armed group was probing the northern buffer zone. The major summoned Adriana. "Live fire scenario," he said, his voice grim. "You'll lead a small element. Observe and neutralize. Your students need to see what a textbook can't teach." That night, under a moonless sky, Adriana led 6 of her best recruits into the darkness. She was no longer a teacher. She was a hunter. The AI-driven targets in the scenario moved with terrifying realism, using cover and flanking maneuvers. Adriana moved through the chaos like a phantom. She spotted the glint of an enemy's scope across a creek. A single, clean shot, and the first hostile collapsed. The recruits watched, mesmerized, as she methodically dismantled the enemy force. 6 rounds, 7 kills, 1 bullet punching through a decoy helmet to take out a second target behind it. She took a shot that threaded the needle past a civilian dummy to neutralize a threat, a shot no one else would have dared to take. Back in the command tent, the senior officers reviewed the drone footage in stunned silence. The major closed Adriana's file. "She isn't just here to teach," he murmured, his voice heavy with revelation. "She's the weapon you send when you can't afford a second shot." Adriana's final exercise was a crucible of smoke, explosions, and chaos. She moved through it with them, not as an observer, but as a combatant. A simulated explosive charge detonated near her, and a stray fragment from a ricochet sliced across her cheek. The recruits saw her stumble, saw the blood. For a moment, their phantom seemed human. But she simply rose, wiped the blood from her face with the back of her glove, and continued. With blood streaming into her eye, she took out the 3 remaining targets with 3 perfect shots. "Pain is background noise," she told them later, her voice raw. "Fear is background noise. All that matters is the shot that decides who walks away." A few days later, she was gone. No farewell, no ceremony. Her bunk was empty. The only thing she left behind was a folded white scarf, placed neatly on her bed. Years passed. The soldiers who trained under her at Black Ridge carried her legend to other conflicts, other parts of the world. Around campfires, they spoke of a woman who could melt into the snow, who hunted 15 men and one who could not be beaten. They gave her a name, spoken in whispers of awe and reverence. They called her the White Phantom. And on the coldest nights at Black Ridge, new recruits would swear they felt a presence in the woods, a pair of calm, watchful eyes, testing them, judging them, a ghost that never truly left.